Hey friend, and welcome to my channel, The Fruitcake Astrologer, where I'll give you an astrologer's take on current events and people in the news. So I'm getting tons of questions. Are they going to be able to contain the coronavirus? Okay. And I've done a little research on my own, and I went to the World Health Organization. You can see here that as of this morning, it's Sunday around noon that I'm recording this, Sunday, February 9th around noon. And you can see that the number of cases has gone over 37,000. But what they don't talk about are the number of severe cases. Now, I tried to find out the definition of a severe case. I don't know if that means critical. I've heard it called critical condition in the United States. And if you look up the definition of critical, that means they're in intensive care and in danger of imminent death within a 24-hour period. So, in intensive care, really critical. Now, whether the World Health Organization and their definition of severe corresponds with the U.S. definition of critical, I don't know. But I think what it means is severe means that it will require hospitalization. Okay, so I'm just assuming that the World Health Organization classifies severe as needing imminent medical attention. All right, so let's take a look here, guys. This is just shy of 19% if I had the number of patients who've been reported to have died from it, plus the number of severe cases, and divided by the total number of cases, just shy of 19%. Like 1 in 5 people who catch this bad boy are going to require medical attention. So now it sounds worse, doesn't it? As of this morning, it's starting to spread outside. More cases are being reported outside of China. And the reason I say that is because I don't think China is, I think most of us can agree that China isn't reporting the real numbers. And also a couple citizen reporters have quote unquote vanished in China. There were 2 people, I think it was Chen Qiushi and Fang Bin, have both disappeared. They were trying to bring the real story to us, and so I think we can all agree that China probably isn't telling the truth, but their stories were that people aren't even going to the hospitals anymore. There aren't enough test kits there's only 100 per hospital, and most of the time they say they're saving the test kits for the doctors. So how many cases are going unnoticed as the coronavirus? And that people are just staying home, and now they're going door to door, and it just looks really bad for the people in China. And of course, we need to keep them in our prayers. So I asked the question using Horary Astrology, which means I can ask the cosmos any question I like. What will be the net result of the coronavirus? Is it going to be contained, or is it going to spread? Is it going to cause mass, death? No other word for it, no nice word for it. And it sounds like, 2% isn't so bad, right? 2% isn't so bad. But what if it gets into, say, the poorer countries like the ghettos of India, or places that are very poor, have poor sanitation? I believe I can safely say that the death rate will be higher in places like that, and probably lower in the industrialized nations such as the United States, where they get medical care right off the bat. There's some implication from the Chinese journalists that by the time people even go to the hospital, they're so extremely ill. But what if they had gotten good medical care before they were so extremely ill? Maybe they would have made it. So I believe that the industrialized nations will fare better than the poorer nations. And I don't say this as an astrologer, I say this as a human being. So I'm trying to keep this, let's look at the facts. I believe they're showing the infection rate as having stabilized in China. But if you believe those citizen journalists, it's because, they're not even going to the hospital anymore. They're not even, So let's see what the chart has to say about the coronavirus. Now, Again, Virgo rises in this chart. I brought the 6 to rise, and Virgo rises, the sign of health. So I believe this is radical. Again, the moon is at the 1st degree, which would indicate this is just beginning. This is just the beginning of this bad boy. Now he's in the 12th house of hospitalization, in confinement. The moon is in the sign of Virgo in a grand trine with the 8th house, which is Scorpio's house and rules death, and Mars in the 4th house. Now these aren't considered good houses in astrology. The 12th house is confinement, self-undoing. The 8th house is death and taxes, and the 4th house is home and family, but it's also the graveyard. And it's the 12th house from the 5th house of risks and, good fortune. So we usually don't want to see anything in the 4th house because he is considered one of the most unfortunate houses. Okay, so we've got a grand trine, which means an easy flow. Don't like to see that through bad houses, right? Now, the virus itself, again, is Mercury. Mercury is conjunct Fortuna in Pisces, which is considered the part of misfortune in Scorpio. And Pisces is considered the part of misfortune conjunct Neptune. So I think he's kind of like, the virus is going to be a bit like the Wile E. Coyote, they can't seem to pin the guy down. Now we know he's an RNA virus, a type of virus which mutates very rapidly. And I think even if they manage to stamp out the one that's going around China, that doesn't mean they'll be able to stamp it out effectively forever. From what I understand, RNA viruses are like the flu. A new strain comes out every year, and that's why you have to get a flu shot every year, because they're constantly mutating, constantly changing. Really yuck again. I'm getting a bad financial read on this, that this is going to hurt the global economy. The global economy, not just China, though it will especially seems to be hurting China. But I think this is going to affect the global economy. Now imagine this thing rages all over the world, and 20% of the world's people who get it are going to end up needing hospitalization or urgent care. That's a heavy duty hit on resources. Now this virus is kind of like the trifecta of yuck. First off, it was detected late and the borders weren't shut down. Second, it's an RNA type which mutates very quickly. And third, people can transmit it with absolutely no symptoms. So that would fit with what the chart is saying. Now, our leaders. Okay, leaders are also ruled by Mercury and Gemini. Now, Gemini is speaking, one of the communication, but it's in Pisces. So you can just bet that the world leaders aren't telling us how bad it is. And I understand why they don't want to. I know they don't want to panic people. I get it. But I would pretty much guarantee from this chart that we are not being told the truth. I do believe they are aware that it's much worse virus than they're saying. And as I record this, I believe it was the State of the Union address, or maybe it was a couple days after it, that Trump said he's been in touch with President Xi and they're doing everything they can, but President Trump has created a task force to keep an eye on this. So I would say there's probably more to the story than we are being told. Now you're like, 2% death rate, that's not so bad, that's okay. And probably I would think we would do better in industrialized nations. But if you consider the world population is 9 billion people. Okay, now 2% doesn't sound so bad, right? 2% of the people, that's not so bad. What they don't tell you again is that about 19% will be made severely ill. It's already in 24 countries. So 2% doesn't sound too bad, but there's 9 billion people on the planet. And if 2% pass away, now again, I think it'll be less in the industrialized countries and probably more in the underdeveloped countries. But say 2%, we're looking at the death of 180 million people if this thing burns across the world. And I see no reason to think they can stop it. The places that will be least detected will be in the places with the poor medical care. For instance, the ghettos of India. I mean, do they have testing kits? Do they have? I suspect it's in more countries than we're hearing about. So anyway, this is bad guy. It, as the chart shows, it looks like it's going to be yuck. You'll notice the moon's final aspect is going to be a trine to Saturn in Capricorn, in that Capricorn stellium. Now, what I think is going to happen is this is going to be a huge wake-up call for the world. And I think new structures, rules, regulations are going to come out to try to stop this from happening again. I mean, we live in such an interconnected society. It's almost a bit of a miracle that this hasn't happened prior. I know everybody's saying SARS, they did manage to stop SARS. But I think this one's, going to be worse. It's already, actually, I think as of today, it passed the SARS death toll. So it's going to be worse. I think it'll end up with rules and regulations. I think this will be a wake-up call. Follow the money, guys. If this hits the global pocketbook, then people are going to be upset about it. And that's what it looks like, is going to happen to me. If I look at the aspects to Saturn, they're pretty much unfavorable. Notice before the moon's final aspect of a trine to Saturn, it's going to be a square to Mars, which makes me think that evidence is going to come out that this was a bioengineered in a military compound, okay? And that is going to cause some nasty publicity for the leadership. And I say that because Mars sits opposite the midheaven, literally a pulling away, a separation. So I think that's going to be the net result of this. Some leadership heads are going to roll and new laws are going to come out to help stop this in the future. What I want to say to you is don't wait to get prepared. I talk to my kids and have a little extra food around the house. One of my kids lives in a very arid place. And even having water purifiers, what are you going to do if there's no water? So look around you. Do you need medication? Do you need water? Do you need food in the house to last for a pretty good-sized family? Don't wait. Don't wait till it's been announced in your area, and the next thing you know, you're stuck in your house. Okay? So this thing looks like the cat is out of the bag, and it's going to be not so good. Now, if you want to put this in context, imagine you're in Costco and maybe every 3 aisles there's 100 people on a Saturday afternoon. 2 of those people won't make it, and 20 of those people will require hospitalization. Okay, what the CDC, the World Health Organization, calls severe. So just be ready, guys. Just be prepared. As far as I'm concerned, this was an inevitability in our interconnected, overpopulated society, So just, be prepared. Okay, thanks for listening. If you enjoy this, please like, share, and subscribe.